America, land of the free, home of the brave. Free speech is one of the most cherished liberties that Americans have today, and this right was guaranteed in the Bill of Rights in 1791 through the First Amendment. The First Amendment prevents Congress from making any laws that infringe on the people's freedoms. The meaning of the First Amendment has been the subject of continuing interpretation and dispute through the years, and the Supreme Court has debated about what speech is protected for years. So what speech is protected? Freedom of the press. We have the right to report the news and circulate opinion with no government censorship. Historically, Great Britain would often censor newspapers from printing stories that made them look bad. As a result, freedom of the press was seen as extremely important and was included while drafting the First Amendment. However, the government hasn't always championed this right. In 1917, the Espionage Act was enacted. This act prohibited any information regarding national defense to be spread if it seemed like it would cause a disadvantage to the United States. In 1971, military analyst Daniel Ellsberg handed the New York Times detailed information about the United States' involvement in the Vietnam War. This information would later be known as the Pentagon Papers. The Times and the Washington Post were both bought in court by the United States government to censor the information, and the Supreme Court voted in favor of the press. People are still being charged under this act. In 2013, Edward Snowden blew the whistle on mass privacy intrusions carried out by the NSA. He was charged under the Espionage Act, and as of today, he lives in an undisclosed location in Moscow and has not been pardoned. Freedom of religion prevents the national and state governments from establishing a national or state religion, and allows citizens to freely exercise any religion. You may have heard the phrase separation of church and state. This was upheld in 1971 when the Supreme Court struck down a law that would reimburse Catholic schools for teachers' salaries, as that would be the state financially supporting a religion. More recently, in 2017, the federal district courts declared a series of travel bans ordered by President Donald Trump to be unconstitutional due to the freedom of religion. However, in 2018, the Supreme Courts overruled the lower courts and upheld the ban. Freedom to assemble and petition. These freedoms are closely related. The First Amendment protects the right to assemble peacefully, as well as the right to protest the government. And finally, freedom of expression. Americans are guaranteed the right to express themselves without fearing government interference. In 1927, Supreme Court Justice Benjamin Cardozo stated that the freedom of expression is the indispensable condition of nearly every other form of freedom. But what isn't protected speech? Words that incite to do others harm, like shouting fire in a crowded movie theater, isn't protected. However, the harm must be imminent, as demonstrated in the widely known Brandenburg v. Ohio case, in which the Supreme Court protected the rights of the KKK to rally. Obscenity isn't protected either. If some speech appeals to the prurient interest in sex or depicts something that is so obscene by community standards and lacks significant literary, scientific, or artistic value, it may not be protected by the First Amendment. So what's going on now? Currently, what's being discussed are policies regarding what can or can't be posted online and who is responsible for what's posted online. Is Twitter a public forum? Is 4chan a private institution? What sort of legislation can be done so that people feel safe voicing their opinions, but also don't see the internet as a realm that harbors extremists? As we move forward, we should keep our freedoms in mind.